Hello and welcome to Cooking the Books with Heather. Today we are working from Deep Run Roots, Vivian Howard's cookbook, and we are making one of my family's favorite Christmas traditions. We always have sausage balls. We usually have them a couple times throughout the Christmas season, and we almost always have them as sort of a small snack for breakfast, Christmas morning, because we usually have like 3 Christmas meals in a row, or in the 24 hours of Christmas Eve to Christmas night. So that's a nice quick Christmas breakfast for us that doesn't fill us up too much. So this is a different recipe than I usually use. Usually and most often people use Bisquick or baking mix of some sort to make these, but she uses cornmeal. So let's get started. I have my cornmeal already measured out in this bowl, and to this we are adding some brown sugar, some salt, and some baking powder because it's just plain cornmeal. You know, there's no leavening to that, so we've got some baking powder in there. And we're just gonna mix this up. I've just got a fork. It's not super important that it gets mixed up great, but we're gonna then mix all of the other stuff in here as well. All right, that's good enough. And she is very insistent that the cheese for this needs to come into your house in a block, not pre-shredded. It won't melt as well. The pre-shredded is covered with usually sort of cellulose of some sort to keep it from clumping. So this will melt better, and she calls for sharp cheddar. So, and on a medium, grated on a medium grater, like of the box grater, I have this separate grater. I also have a small injury from a cheese slicing incident last weekend, and so I'm gonna be wearing a couple kinds of gloves for this recipe, including this cut-proof glove, because this is really sharp. I've cut myself on this before, so and when I'm done with it, I just wash it in the laundry with everything else. So I'm just gonna grate all of this in here, and then we're gonna give it a toss. Done grating my cheese into the bowl, and I'm just going to set this aside because I have to grate something else later, and I'm just going to use the same grater, same glove, because it's all going together. So now we just sort of toss the cheese with the cornmeal mixture to sort of get it coated so it doesn't all clump together, and it will be mixed up when we mix it with the rest of our ingredients. There's that. And clean up a little bit. So now we need to make our sausage mixture, and I'm starting with our favorite sausage is Nice's. I think it's a North Carolina product. I believe they're always at the state fair, giving out samples of different things. But this is what we almost always use for sausage balls. Right, into this also goes some cream cheese, and now we have to grate this onion. It's a small onion, grated, and I'm just going to use the same grater. Onions are really hard to grate because they're all separated. You know, they have the layers and stuff, and it's hard. So keep using my glove. Very juicy. I got as much as I could from that onion. There's a pile of stuff left here. The second half went a little bit better than the first, but I don't know why I don't just bring out the food processor for this, because This always annoys me. I always try to do it by hand because it's such a small amount of things, and I try not to dirty the whole food processor for that, but yeah, next time I'll probably use that. Okay, so I'm gonna switch gloves. 1 second. So the best way to mix this all up from now on is with your hands. And because I have, you know, a small injury, I'm just using these gloves. I use them sometimes when I have to cut a lot of raw meat or whatever. So yeah, I use these in the kitchen relatively often. Not a lot, but a lot of raw meat handling, or when I cut hot peppers, particularly because they stick to your skin. The heat sticks to your skin, and this will make you not hurt your eyes or your nose or your mouth later when you touch them with your spicy hands. So now I'm just going to mix all of this up together, and then we add the cheese and the other mixture and mix it all up together. So this is pretty well mixed, I think. And now I'm gonna add the cornmeal and the flour, and my gloves keep wanting to fall off, but whatever. Just gonna dump all of this in here. And now I just keep mixing. Because you wanna make sure you get all of it sort of moistened together. So I'm all done mixing these up, and I'm going to keep my gloves on as I form these into balls. I'm gonna make some room on my work surface. 1 second. So I've got some parchment paper on my baking sheet. I'm not gonna bake all of these right now. These do freeze very well, so I'm going to make enough for us to just have a snack right now. And then I'm going to put the rest of them on wax paper on a baking sheet in the freezer. When they're all frozen, just throw them in a Ziploc freezer bag and they'll be good. So what we're going for here is about a 1-inch ball. And they cook in a 375 degree oven for, let's see, about 20 minutes. When they start getting golden, then they're done. And I will show you what they look like when they're all out of the oven. On this episode of Cooking the Books with Heather, we made Vivian Howard's sausage balls from the Deep Run Roots cookbook. And as I said, this is something that we make every year. We have quite often. And so this was a different recipe for us. It had cornmeal in it instead of flour. And I think as a family, we prefer the ones with flour. However, I believe we'll probably try this again, sort of maybe mixing half and half flour and cornmeal, because I think we liked what the cornmeal brought to it, but we have, we really like the traditional recipe as well. So if you really like cornmeal, if you really like cornbread, this is probably a great recipe for you. If you want to try something new, or if you've never tried them before, certainly try this recipe. It was very easy, didn't require anything special besides, a box grater. That grating the onion step was probably the hardest part of it, the whole thing. Her recipe says it makes 40 1-ounce balls. I got 36 out of it, not too bad. And we have some in the freezer now for later. So I hope you enjoyed this episode of Cooking the Books with Heather. And if you did, please hit the thumbs up button and subscribe to come back and watch me cook something next week.